Alright guys, for this video, I want to tell you a crazy scary story that happened to me back in 2013. Yeah, 2013. Uh, Sounds kind of ridiculous, but it's 100% true. And a lot of my friends have heard it, but I want to make a YouTube video about it. So, yeah, 2013, I joined the Navy and I met a good friend. We're going to call him Kyle, right? So me and Kyle, we met on the smoke deck, and then Kyle, Kyle and I, we were good friends. We both worked at the same place, the hospital in San Diego. Okay, so we met on the smoke deck and became decent enough friends. And then when we were both about to get our new barracks room, we wound up in the same barracks room. It was like kind of fate that we would get put in the same place. Now Kyle and I were good friends, and luckily we were, because we had to share the same exact room. So like my bed was in his one corner, and his bed was in the other corner, and then we had a common area that we shared with two other people, and that had like the kitchen, the washer and dryer, a couch, a big TV, But so we spent a lot of time together because we were good friends, and we'd go out to the smoke deck and like drink a couple beers or whatever and meet some people out there. And here's the part where it gets a little weird. So before we moved to the new barracks room, the old one, the old smoke deck, we met a friend whose name was Alexander. That's his actual name. So Alexander, he was there because he was a part of the Wounded Warrior program. He was like he went through some serious stuff. Saw some combat and over in the sandbox. So he had some serious mental health issues when he came back. And this fella, Alexander, was also very interested in the occult, it seems, because when he left the Wounded Warrior program quickly because something happened, he left behind all of his belongings to me and Kyle. All right. So me and Kyle, we go into the room and we're looking through his stuff, seeing if there's anything of value. And my friend Kyle, he's also into the occult, and so he was like, "Okay, we'll take this. It's like a sort of a fairy, I guess a fairy house. It was like a hollowed out stump, and also a box of tarot cards and a big amethyst crystal, which is apparently like a antenna for supernatural things." So, and I think nothing of this. I'm like, okay, yeah, my friend's into this. Like, it's cool. He's just inheriting these objects from his friend, right? So, as the days go on, we we just continue living our lives, and then one day we decide to break open those tarot cards, and my friend he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, I never told you this, but my family down in the Southwest, they're actually shamans, and I'm a descendant of a shaman, and I know how to do this. I know how to do a tarot card reading. I know how to communicate with spirits." And he would actually claim that he saw spirits around. And so Kyle, we'd go out to that smoke deck, and you know meet some people, and he'd offer to give him a tarot card reading and bring him back to the room. Well, the weird thing is, the tarot card readings were always very accurate. Whenever he would predict something, it always seemed like it happened shortly after we did the reading, which really freaked me out, because the people would say, "Didn't you say," like, they'd come back and they'd be like, "Didn't you say this was going to happen?" They're like, "Yeah, I met a new girl, just like and she had red hair," something like that. And it was so bizarre. And then things got a little weird, because one of the other objects that he had gotten from Alexander was a black mirror. And they say you look into a black mirror for a certain amount of time, like an hour, and you just stare at your own reflection, and eventually you'll see something, and that something will tell you the future, or give you like your fortune. So this fella, he was a sonar technician, Let's call him Steve. And Steve, he was staring at the black mirror, and I was there, playing games in the room, like, oh, he's doing another one of these readings. And Steve sees a bright light start shining in his eye while he's looking in this black mirror, and he goes, "Whoa, what was that?" And Buddy says, "Oh, well, that's whatever it is, whatever you saw, that's your fortune, or that's what's gonna happen." And I shit you not, like the next day when he went to work, he was working on a piece of machinery and it exploded, and he got a big piece of shrapnel in his eye. And so he had to walk around with an eye patch, and I think he lost vision in that eye after all. And he like scorned my friend, and he said, like, "Why would you do this to me? I can't believe you would do this." And like that, I was like, "Nah, it's just a coincidence." But so, okay, here's where the story gets a little weird. So at the time, I was going through sort of some relationship issues, and I was unsure if I was going to stay with this person forever, make it a thing, marry him, whatever. And so I did something that Kyle told me never to do. He said, "Whatever you do, never do a tarot card reading with these cards by yourself." And I was like, okay, sure. So I went back up to the room one day. We were out on the smoke deck, and it started raining. And the people he was hanging out with started acting kind of weird. Like they're claiming that they saw spirits everywhere, because this was one of the days in the Wiccan faith that the veil between the spirit world and our world is the thinnest. So I was getting a little freaked out by that. And so it was starting to rain, which it never happened in San Diego. Very rarely it ever did. It actually started a thunderstorm. And I went back up to the room, and because I was going through those relationship issues, I asked the cards what my future was, what was going to happen. And I got a good answer. Ironically, it was actually, like, I knew what the cards meant after doing so many with my friend. And in hindsight, it was what happened. Like, it actually did tell me the future. But I did it by myself again, right? Like I said. So I'm sitting in my room just playing video games. My friend comes back in the room, and he doesn't, like, talk about it or anything. Obviously, I didn't tell him. Then we go about the rest of my night. I wake up in the morning, and he wakes up like crazy and says, Did you do a tarot card reading by yourself last night?" And looked at me like he'd been like sweating all night. He was like scared shitless. So when he woke up, this is what he said. He said that he had this dream where we were sort of play fighting in the room. And all of a sudden, I swung at him, like actually trying to hit him. And he said, "I fell down on the ground. My head spun 180 degrees and looked at him and said, 'Billy Withers is here.'" And then he said he woke up in the middle of the night and saw a 9-foot tall shadow man standing in the middle of the room. The second he told me this, I freaked out. And not because of what he had just said, but because it felt like the room felt like I was breathing through a straw. It felt like I could barely breathe, and the room was extremely humid, even though we had the AC on full blast. And he said, like, you should not have done that tarot card reading. We released something. Something came out of them when you did it by yourself. So I said, "Well, what do we do?" We walked out of the room, and I said, "So what do we do?" And he was like contacting his friends, trying to figure out what we should do about this. And he said, "Well, the only thing that I know that can like purify this is the ocean." And luckily we were by the ocean. He said we need to throw the cards in the ocean to like get rid of the spirit that's following us. So I pick up these tarot cards, and we walk down to the car. We get into my friend's Mitsubishi Eclipse, and we put them in the trunk, right? So on the way to the beach, we almost got into 3 car accidents. People were slamming on their brakes all around us. We almost got rear-ended, and it always seemed like we were about to get hit in the trunk. Maybe whatever was in there wanted to get out and knew that we were going to try to get rid of it. So when we finally get to the beach, I open up the trunk, I take the cards out, and I start walking to the beach, and I cannot make this up. It felt like I was holding a cinder block. It felt like I was holding something that was hundreds of pounds. And like my arms hurt when I was walking up to the water out of the beach. So we walk on over the beach, and unfortunately, that's really the end of the story. We just threw them away, and things kind of went back to normal after that. But I'll never forget what happened to me because it was extremely profound. And I called my mom and started wearing a silver cross and felt extremely uncomfortable sleeping in that room after that. But I did feel like whatever that energy was had been removed. And I talked to people a long time after this and found out that they said like it was because you put the amethyst crystal on top of those tarot cards, because that amethyst crystal is an antenna, and you were communicating with something when you were doing those readings. And it was, I mean, it didn't seem like it was a positive energy, let's just put it that way. So that's going to do it. I just wanted to share that quick story with you guys. I have another couple of them that I experienced while I was in the military. 3 actual paranormal encounters, in fact. So I'm going to be putting those on this channel as well. If you want to hear more stories told by me, go ahead and support this content, I guess. All right. But have a wonderful day.